Hello guys, my name is Gavin, and this will be a video on how to make an object follow wherever you move your mouse. So if I were to move my mouse over to this corner, the cube would slowly start to move over here. The initial request was for an RPG element, or a real-time strategy game kind of simulator where you can drag and drop enemies and stuff. I can't go quite as in-depth in that video in this video today, but I will show you how to at least make an object follow to the position of your mouse. Alright guys, I'm just going to get started. To start off, let's go from defaults to game logic and go from Blender render to Blender game. And in the middle of our screen, let's hit spacebar and then add a plane like this, and hit S and 10 like this to scale it out 10 times. So if we were to hit P now, we can see there's now an orange, not a red cube, a cube in the middle, and there's a plane underneath it. Alright, so now what we want to do is actually write some code for our cube in the middle right here. So what we're going to do is add an always sensor with these first three dots selected, add a mouse sensor. This mouse sensor will be named as mouse over like this. And let's change it from left button to mouse over any and minimize this. Add another mouse actuator, and this will be, actually we don't need another mouse actuator. My apologies. Let's now add a Python controller like this and connect it like this. And what we're going to do is add an edit object actuator and change it to track2 and rename it to track2. I'm going to minimize this for now. We haven't added our object we're going to track to in yet, but that's just part of the thing. And let's now add a motion actuator. And this motion actuator will be, let's say 0.1. And I'll rename this as move, and I'll minimize this. Connect it to your Python controller like this, and like this. In the middle of our screen, let's now do spacebar and then add an empty object. Add empty. This empty object will be a cube. Now I'll rename this empty object as empty object. So empty objects. That looks good. Okay. What we're now going to do is I'm going to right click back on our cube. If I can select my cube. There we go. Our cube is selected. I'm just going to add a simple material to it to make it a little bit easier to see. Alright. And what we're going to do is we're going to start coding for our cube. So let's do templates Python and then game logic simple. Delete the portion we have highlighted and hit Control and scroll up on your mouse to make your text larger and rename this to scripts.py. Add this right here as well. And let's define our mouse over sensor first. So mouse over is going to equal const.sensors mouse over. Let's now define our two track2 and move actuators. So track2 is going to equal const.actuators track2, and then move is going to equal const actuators move. Okay, now that we have that inside of our track2 actuator, what we're going to do is we're just going to add the empty object like this, and that's good. I might scale out this plane just a bit more. And what we're going to do is at the top of our script, let's import the scene. So let's have scene is going to equal bg.logic.getsCurrent scene like this. And we're going to have empty objects is going to equal scene.objects empty objects. Okay, now that we have this, what we're going to do is, let's see, we're going to have our if mouse over.positive down here. Let me scroll in so you guys can see. So if mouse over.positive, what we are going to do is have empty objects is going to equal empty object.world position, sorry, is going to equal the mouse over.hit position. So this may seem confusing, but essentially what it's saying is that the position of where our mouse hits in the game will be where our empty object is going to be at the time. Next, what we're going to do is do const.activates track2 like this. And then we're going to do const.activates move. Alright, so what should happen is if we hit play now, we can see the cube in the game is going to follow our mouse around. We can't actually see our mouse, which is kind of tough. So let's actually go back to the top of our script. And let's do from BGE import render. And then do render.show mouse. And 1 like this. Okay, now that we have that, we can see our mouse is going to follow our empty objects. Okay. One last thing we can do though, and this kind of can be important, is if we're no longer on our game map, I'm just going to hit the backspace button a couple times. So if we move our mouse off of the game map, we're going to do const.deactivates track2, then const.deactivates move. So deactivate those two things right there. Okay, so if I drag this out, we can see my mouse is going to follow. I'm actually going to right click on this light and hit X and delete. We can see our mouse is going to follow our object is going to follow our mouse, but if we move it off, it's going to deactivate everything. If we move it back on, it's now going to follow again. Okay guys, that is how you make an object follow your mouse in Blender. I will show you guys the script just one more second. So define the actuators and sensors right here, and if we hover our mouse over the game view, the empty object will be equal to the mouse over hit position. And then we're going to activate the track 2 actuator. That is going to be set to the empty object, so our cube will follow the empty object. It's then going to activate the move, so the movement actuator. And if we're not hovering our mouse over an object, it's just going to deactivate everything. And alright guys, hope you guys liked this video.